Good morning. Wow, it's a great honor to be here with you today. What a tremendous group of people to be around. I live in the high-tech world, and this seems like home here to me. In 2012, I gave a talk in Istanbul at a TEDx conference, and I made the prediction that by 2030, over 2 billion jobs would disappear. Now, this wasn't intended to be a doom or gloom statement. It wasn't intended to say that we're going to have 2 billion people unemployed in the world. It was intended to be a wake-up call to say that we were going to have to create new jobs at a faster rate than ever before. So I get quoted on this in newspapers, magazines, and TV stations literally all over the world. Now, this wasn't a doom or gloom statement. This is what I refer to as the level problem. A lot of us have this tool in our homes. We use it to do carpentry work. We use it to hang pictures straight. But once we download a level app, then we no longer need to buy that tool, or a lot of us don't need to buy that tool. That means that we don't need as many people making the aluminum frames. We don't have as many people making the glass bulbs. We don't have as many people doing the assembly work, the shipping, the receiving, the retail stores handling that product. Every time we download a mobile app, it eliminates jobs. Very tiny piece of a job. But once we start downloading billions upon billions of mobile apps, it starts affecting a lot of things. So the key thing to remember is that all industries are a bell curve. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And yes, all of the industries we have today will eventually go away. 1,000 years from now, every industry we have today will have been replaced multiple times. The other key thing to remember is that most of the profitable industries we have today end up being in the second half of the bell curve. They're constantly having to do more with less. So where do the new industries come from? Well, every future industry starts as a micro industry. It starts very tiny. It's very small, one business, two businesses that crop up and that take over the world. So I made the prediction that by 2030, we're going to have over 100,000 new micro industries that come out of the woodwork and get started. And I've been focusing a lot of this thinking around the shoe industry because this is something that we can all relate to. Every year in the world, we sell 21 billion pair of shoes. 21 billion pair of shoes. That's a lot of shoes. That's roughly 3 pair of shoes for everybody on the face of the earth. Now, the prediction is that within 5 years, that 5% will be smart shoes. That means that they'll have additional capabilities. So at a consumer electronics show in January that I went to in Las Vegas, they had a smart shoe company that was working with fall victims, people that would fall over accidentally, and then it would send out a signal to have somebody come and help pick them back up again. Now, I think that we're going to start having shoes that are designed for every niche industry. We're going to have pores that open and close on the sides of shoes to allow better ventilation coming in and going. I think we'll have lots of polymeric gel packs that expand and contract on the bottom of the shoes to give us an even pressure on the bottom of the shoes. We're going to be able to track every movement inside of the foot, every muscle expansion and contraction. We're going to start designing shoes for every niche industry, people that play lacrosse, people that are mountain climbers, people that are left-handed, people that play organ or piano. Every industry is going to have their own application of shoes, and we're going to start seeing all of these small little businesses crop up making these specially designed shoes for that niche industry. And some of these shoes are going to start looking very crazy. So I'm not sure if these are shoes that you want to buy, but maybe these are somehow the creative inspiration for something that's entirely new as well. So if, as an example, you like to go jogging at night and you go outside, your shoes will recognize that it's dark outside. Because it's dark outside, your shoes then will be authorized to signal for a drone to fly overhead and light up the path in front of you. And because these are smart shoes, these drones will also be authorized to make a payment of so many dollars per hour to pay for that flying drone. And it doesn't have to be just for dark jogging applications. If you want an umbrella drone that will fly over your head during the rain, you can have that. The smart shoe that I want is one that will come when I call it by name. So the future of business is going to range from all these micro industries to mega projects. And we're going to see lots of mega projects because governments are going to start getting scared as we start automating jobs out of existence. And these mega projects are going to be real interesting. I'm going to just really briefly mention 8 of them here. So the 4 bridges projects, colonizing Mars, the tube transportation, floating islands, mass energy storage. So the 4 bridges project, we're at a point where these things have been talked about for decades. Now we're at a point where we can actually accomplish these. These are really serious engineering projects, building a bridge across the Bering Strait, across the Darien Gap to connect North and South America, one between Korea and Japan, one across Gibraltar between Spain and the rest of Africa. These are 4 major bridge projects that will dramatically change the face of the world. When we look at the biggest bridge project in the world so far, which has just recently been completed between Hong Kong and Macau, this is just slightly shorter than some of the ones that I just mentioned here would have to be. Colonizing Mars. Sometime within the next 10 to 15 years, the prospects of colonizing Mars are going to catch on. We're going to start seeing lots of activity in this space. So what will that look like? Tube transportation, once we see lots of pilot projects going on right now. If we build a tube transportation network that connects all the major cities of the world, that could be an 80 to 100-year build-out employing hundreds of millions of people. And again, countries around the world are nervous about keeping people employed, so they're going to invest in these mega projects to keep people employed. Floating islands, there's a company called Oceanics, which has designed floating islands that will survive a level 5 hurricane. Mass energy storage that will allow a city to store all the power from one day to the next and have a reserve of power in case we have a major power outage. Global Wi-Fi systems that work absolutely anywhere on the planet. And also a whole Earth genealogy project that enables us to start mapping all of our ancestry and how all of us as humans are connected from one person to another. The amount of information we will glean from a project like that is truly staggering as we understand the geography of humanity. In a global blockchain infrastructure, this is only part of a much bigger equation as we create this global trust network. See, we're a very backward-looking society. We're backward-looking because it's just human nature. See, we've all personally experienced the past. As we look around us, we see evidence of the past all around us. In fact, all information that we come into contact with is essentially history. So the past is very knowable, and yet we're going to be spending the rest of our lives in the future. So it's almost as if we're walking backwards into the future. My job as a futurist is to help turn people around, to give them some idea of what the future might hold. So how does the future get created? Well, the future gets created in the minds of everybody around us. We all participate in creating the future. Certainly some of us have more influence than others. But people make decisions today based on their understanding of what the future holds. So I use this phrase quite a bit. The future creates the present. This is just the opposite of what most people think. Most people think that what we're doing today is going to create the future, but from a little different perspective, it's these images of the future that we hold in our head determine our actions today. So here's the key thing. If we change somebody's vision of the future, we change the way they make decisions today. That's my job, is to help change people's vision of the future. And as a result, they tend to walk out of the room making different decisions. So how do I decide which topics to talk about? I hear about all these studies going on in universities and research centers around the world, and I look at what they're finding and I say, wow, this is going to change everything. And then nothing happens. In fact, nothing happens the vast majority of the time. So I tend to focus on what's getting traction. what's really catching on, what's getting leveraged and people are spending a lot of money on. So as an example, the Tesla Model 3, when that was first introduced, even that was during a time of total chaos with the electric car industry, but that is the most successful product launch in all human history. Over 450,000 people put $1,000 down on a car that they had never seen or knew anything about. And that car is now being delivered to people literally all over the world. But the cars we drive today have actually been in development for the past 120 years. So it's actually taken 120 years to get to cars that are this good. So for the past 120 years, people who have been designing cars around one central function, and that central function is driving. So as we move into the driverless era, people are no longer going to drive. So when somebody is designing a car now, they're focused on everything other than the driving part. So this relationship that they've been studying, the relationship between humans and the steering wheel, between humans and the dashboard and the gas pedals, all of that information goes out the window, and they focus on every other function that happens inside of a car other than driving. And so you have to ask the question, is this the same job? Now this is an important question because 20 years from now we're still going to have teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, but the tools they use are going to be vastly different. So then we have to ask the same question, is this the same job? Is this the same profession? This is what it's like driving in a driverless car today. Now, if you notice the guy behind the steering wheel, the nervous guy there, before we get into a driverless car today, we're going to have to develop a level of trust, and it's not there yet. The other thing that's missing is we need a Wi-Fi network around the world because some of the decisions are made in the car itself, some are made in the cloud, and so we need to make sure that all that communication is in place. That's not there yet. Now, Elon Musk is trying to do that with Starlink, but there are several other companies, including Samsung and Amazon and several others, that are trying to put satellites in space to create this global internet. The cars themselves then become rolling data centers as they talk to each other. Now, we have lots of problems. The driverless world is going to affect so many things. It's huge, massive impact. In the US, every year we have roughly 40,000 deaths, 4.5 million injuries from cars, and we spend right at $500 billion repairing people after car accidents. That's 1 out of every $6 in our healthcare industry. And if you magnify this around the world, it's several degrees much more severe than that. So the safest form of travel today in the world is the airline industry. If we can get even close to that in the auto industry, it'll save a tremendous number of lives, save a tremendous number of dollars in the healthcare world, and we'll be a much better society as a result of that. But there's so many unanswered questions. So here's a great question. At what age can I put a child in a driverless car by themselves? If I have a car that will recognize a parent on one end and a teacher on the other end, can I put a 6-year-old child in a car to go to school by themselves, and for how long? Is 10 minutes okay? Is 30 minutes too long? Because things go wrong. So we have lots of unanswered questions there. And as we move into the driverless world, it affects so many things. I suggest that the world of retail is going to be turned on its head. So the mobile world, suddenly we have people driving these mobile businesses around. Once we are able to go driverless, it changes dramatically. So if I need something from the store late at night, rather than getting dressed and going to the store, I can just have the store come to me. And I can just walk out there, pick out what I need, and it will automatically charge me for it. It's not just storefronts, though. It can be actual businesses. We can have our office that drives around our city. And we can have mobile meetings, mobile conferences. We can have mobile cooking schools, things like that, as we pick up students around the city as we go. mobile barber shops, mobile dog grooming places, mobile banks, mobile bike repair, bike rental, nail shops, coffee shops, retail stores, and these are going to come in lots of different configurations, whether they're selling food or they're selling hard goods. Even when we want to have a party somewhere, we can just have all of the pieces come together in some remote location and we can celebrate. So the big difference is, rather than driving people to where the store is, we then take the store to where the people are. Anytime there's a tournament, anytime there's a parade down Main Street, anytime there's a gathering of people, we can just set up and start doing business at that location. Now, if we want to hold a conference like this in a remote location, we can then summon these mobile hotel rooms that just come to this remote location, and we can set up in that location. And a couple days later, they all move to a new city for a different conference there. So the Mall of the Future I see as being a giant building, and every morning, mobile businesses pull in and set up shop. I think that will be very interesting because it's a different configuration, different groupings of people every single day. So how much of today's business world will be overtaken by driverless mobile businesses in 10 to 20 years? I think that's a great question we should be asking on a regular basis. All right, we're moving from the hobbyist drones that we have in the world today to fleets of drones. In the very near future, every police department will have its own fleet of drones. Every city, every college campus, every news organization, every sports team, every farmer, every airport, construction companies, shipping docks, all of them will have their own fleets of drones to monitor what's going on in the area. This will give rise to drone command centers. In these drone command centers, we don't know what they're going to look like right now. We don't understand the skills that are needed for them just yet. But it might be something like this or something like this. But we're going to have to manage all of these drones that are flying around our cities. And the cities are going to start using these fleets of drones to scan the city physically on a regular basis, and we'll start creating digital models of the city. And these digital models will get better and better over time. Now, once these digital models get to a certain point, that will enable us to create search engines for the physical world. So we're going to be able to start searching on search attributes that we have no idea that we can search on today. I want something that smells like this. I want something that tastes like this. I want something with this harmonic vibration, with this specific gravity, with this texture, with this level of reflectivity. All of these things will become searchable in the future. So we won't have to actually know how it's doing it. All we have to know is how to put the command in, and we'll be able to search on things like, how much damage did that tornado cause to City Hall 15 minutes ago? Where is that dog with rabies in the city right now at this moment? What's the heaviest traffic intersection in the city? I need an infrastructure report on the city. What's the most dangerous bridge in the city today? So I'm going to close out by leaving you with 5 predictions. The first one is that search engines for the physical world will be common within 10 years, by 2028, 2029. We're going to reach the first billion drones in the world somewhere around 2030, maybe 2032. And it's going to become quite a burden to manage all of these drones. Drone taxis, where we can actually get in and fly across the city, drone taxis will become a common form of transportation by 2030. And driverless technology will become the most disruptive technology in all history. It'll be more disruptive than the wheel, more disruptive than the invention of electricity or the car itself, largely because we have a bigger population on planet Earth and things are moving much quicker. So this will be hugely disruptive. And the last prediction is by 2030, the largest company on the internet will be an education-based company that we haven't heard of yet. Now this is the largest opportunity on the internet that nobody's quite cracked the code for. So as soon as somebody figures out this little education piece, it's going to scale very quickly. So the future is ours to write. always remember, the future is not a destination. It's always a journey. It's constantly changing. So by 2030, the average person will own printed clothing, live in a printed house, have packages delivered by drones, own more than one robot, work as a freelancer, frequently use a driverless car, and will be capable of accomplishing 10 times as much as the average person today. So we're entering a period of unprecedented opportunity. Why is this so unprecedented? Because humanity is going to change more in the next 20 years than in all human history. At the same time, we're actually creating more breaking points. We're creating ways for things that can go wrong. And our children's children are counting on us to make great decisions. Our children's children who haven't even been born yet, they're counting on the people in this room to make great decisions for the future. As Steve Jobs says, right now is one of those moments when you are changing the future. But sometimes our best efforts just look a lot like this. Pretty much just like that. So I'll give you a quick plug for my newest book, Epiphany Z, which is available in Chinese. And I thank you very much for having me. If you'd like to sign up for our free newsletter, feel free to send me an email. Thank you very much.